Aric, thanks for joining the podcast, man. It's good to see your face. We went to college together
Yeah.
many, many moons ago. I don't even like saying the years now because it sounds so old.
It
How are we
sounds
this old?
insane. I don't feel old. Like I don't feel, even when like I'm managing my bazillion kids, I don't feel old. But then it's like, do the math.
Yeah. Do you still have t-shirts from college?
I do. I have a few, and they kind of became painting t-shirts over the
Sure,
years.
sure.
But then and then I'm like, God, why did I do that? Now, like, this
Mhm.
would be the coolest
Like
old,
vintage,
like,
yeah.
yeah. And I remember one time I had all my frat shirts. This is probably
Hmm.
like 10 years after. And I put them all in a bag when I was going to Waco one time. And I drove up to the house, to our frat house, and I just walk in with this bag of 90s like shirts and just drop them in there. You thought I brought
Bro,
a stack of pizzas. They're just all like, what? Like, who
yeah,
are you? I'm all
yeah.
like, yeah. No, it was great. So I'm sure that cotton is living on
I only ask you because
somewhere.
we only received 90,000 t-shirts while we were at
Oh,
Baylor.
yeah. Everything had a t-shirt.
Right.
Still
Right.
does.
Yeah. Well, so it's been a minute since we've caught up. So catch me
Yeah.
up, dude. Tell me about you, your family. What are you guys doing? Where do you live?
So yeah, so since the 90s, got married, and we have 7 kids. That was never like the plan. This is the kind of thing I always tell when I'm doing like premarital counseling or something like
Uh-huh.
that. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, hey, one of the conversations you should have is like, how many kids do you think you'd want to have? Because
Mhm.
if you don't have the conversation, you end up with 7 kids. So we we were gonna wait 5 years to have a kid. A year and 3 months into marriage, had a kid, and then we waited 4 years, and then it was like boom, 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 boom. So we
Mhm.
have 4 biological kids and 3 adopted kids, and that's a way long story. I don't know if that's part of. I'd probably talking a little bit about, but um, I've been a worship pastor for the duration of that in some form or fashion,
Mhm.
but did the whole playing in rock bands and
Mhm.
thinking I
Yeah,
was
you
going to be
did.
the big deal, and got to do some really cool stuff, and but kind of been full-time in ministry throughout the duration of the last 23 years. But yeah, our oldest is 19 and is like in his first year of college, and our youngest is in 5th grade. So I have like a 19, 15, 14, 12, 2 11s, and a 10. And my other lowest 10 is about to be 11 in
Mhm.
a month or something like that. So
Uh,
it's
yeah,
crazy town.
I say wow. I have a 19-year-old as well. She's
Yeah.
a sophomore in college, and then
Jeez.
our youngest is about to turn 12. He's a sixth grader.
Yeah.
So
See, we
I've
we
got the
get it.
span, but
Yeah.
I'm missing four other components in that
Are
span.
you missing though? Really? Let's define missing. Uh
Yeah. So,
yeah.
um, what I am curious about is start by describing a moment in your life where uh, something was shattered from its original design. So
Mm.
you saw it going this way, and in a moment or moments, bam, it's not that way anymore.
I would say that the one that has been really the defining one, and I'll kind of give you a snapshot of that and then jump back to a couple other ones that I think, well, it's hard because when
Yeah,
you
yeah.
you get on the other side of something, you have a different perspective.
Hmm.
Um, when we were going through the foster adopt process, um, that's always something that was on my wife's heart always, and she told me about it later. I was like, oh yeah, me too. Like you don't know what me too means later. Um, but and so we kind of, when our youngest was about a month old, he went in the hospital with kidney reflux for when he
Wow.
was a month old, and we were there for 10 days, and we kind of knew within a matter of hours that what it was and that he was going to be okay, but he had to be in there in the NICU for 10 days for them to run these IV antibiotics on him and stuff like that. So you're just living at the hospital. I don't know if y'all had
Hmm.
a stint with that, but not. great. But you definitely, like, we felt really blessed because we're looking at other people that don't know the outcome of what's going to happen with their kid. But in the NICU, there was this other kid in a pod next to us that was a CPS case that we knew. We're hearing the report every day. There is no mom, there is no dad, there is no family. No one's
Oh
coming
my
for this
gosh.
kid. And so Glenna and I both, that's my wife, Glenna, both independently, God started working on us like, we're going to get that kid. And I'm like, oh, that caught me off guard. So I bring it up because literally the day before we were talking to somebody and I said, I always thought like if the right situation came along, we might get involved in fostering or adopting.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly God was like, this is the right situation. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I don't know if that's not how it works. You don't go pick out the kid you want
Yeah.
from the system and they
Tracking
give
with
it
you.
to you. But that got the process going in us. We start fighting to get this kid. We actually find out what the kid's name is, what you can't do. I'm just calling his CPS worker. We're like, hey, when we got like fast track, getting certified, all this stuff. And then ultimately 3 months down the road, that kid gets adopted into an extended member of his family, which we're like,
Mm-hmm.
cool. That's what we wanted.
Right.
We felt moved that he needed to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So then we're like, well, we're certified. We're ready to do this. What now, God? Like, what do you want to do? Or what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
And about 2 weeks later, I'm at rehearsals and my wife calls and is like, hey, they need us to watch this, do care for this baby. Is that cool? I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And mind you, our youngest is about 4 months old at this time. And I come back home that night about 11 o'clock and there's like a baby at our house. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, it's like they brought the baby. It was like they brought a black trash bag with a few things, a car seat and a baby. And so I'm like, okay, well, in my mind, I'm like, this could be a couple of days. We're going to watch her. The next day we call and they're like, and this was like in January, they're like, we should know something by June. And I'm like, oh crap. Like we have a baby. So then we suddenly went to like,
Mm-hmm.
we have twins.
Mm-hmm.
And so fast forward, we get to meet the mom. She's flunking out of rehab after rehab. So that plan, as far as we know, is like not going to work. We're falling in love with this little girl who's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And, she's just this little 1 month old, month and a half old baby. And we're beginning to raise 2 children. And we're like, all right, God, this is what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little messy, but you know what? This is great. Like we feel like the poster children for like, man, you should adopt. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, what we didn't know is that the CPS worker knew of some other family of hers, of the little baby in New Jersey. The whole time behind the scenes, she's working to get the baby up to that family in New Jersey. Didn't tell us about it because just assumed that we would be against that. And we're like, no, we're actually for this kid, whatever's
Mm-hmm.
best.
Mm-hmm.
Then and then kind of like she's just always on us about every little nitpicky detail about all this stuff. We get months down the road, we end up in court pitted against the birth family, not the mom, but against like this extended family who wants the baby. And we came to court kind of filing an injunction thinking we're fighting to get to adopt her because we think there is no one. And the CPS puts us literally against each other in court, and we got blindsided, and it just turned into this total disaster. And we start feeling really attacked for trying to do the right thing. The CPS would write us up, the worker would write us up for loving the baby too much. We made a sign with their name on it, and they're just like, why would you do that? And like, we're just like, what? Because we have kids. And we're like, and so then my wife starts feeling like we're getting bullied by this worker. The worker, like, would threaten us. Like, I need to see what y'all are doing with your kids. I need to see, like, almost like threatening our children and the security of our home. And so it kind of culminates in like, we finally were like, we're going to lose this little baby we've had for almost a year and we're raising her and we're going to lose her. And my wife just came to a breaking point, like had a nervous breakdown and couldn't get out of bed for like a month and a half.
Mm.
Now we already have 4 other kids and we still have this baby. And they're starting to now put the baby on a plane with a worker and take her to New Jersey to go visit this family. And I mean, Glenna's clinically falling apart. And that's when I'm all like, all right, God, do you want us to adopt? So I feel like this is like a solid no, a hard pass. And we finally had to just come to grips with this, like we're going to lose her. And they came to finally to a day where I had to take our daughter basically to the airport, hand her off to someone, they get on a plane, we'll never see her again. And like just the depth of pain that caused in our family. I think we learned a lot, obviously, but it was just extremely difficult. And like you say, like this is what we thought the plan was. This was not the plan.
So she was 1. She was essentially 1.
She was just turned 1. Like we throw her a birthday party, and then next week we put on an airplane. We'll see you.
Oh my gosh.
And that point, Glenna had started to function again. I think part of it, and her really breakthrough just to trying to heal a little bit, was just that she finally came to grips with, we are going to lose her. I think the fight was what was killing her. And so when it came down to, we are going to lose her, let's take these moments to say goodbye. That feels different, So she leaves. It put a crater and a stress on our whole family, our bio kids, our extended family, like our parents, who are very close and help us, because we got a big family. They're involved in our lives happily, they see the pain and the destruction that was kind of causing. And so they were just like, yeah, y'all are done. God does not want y'all to adopt or to be a part of that world.
Don't go through this again.
Yeah, we can't do it again. Much less are we down for y'all to do this again. But we still felt like we were called to do it. So about 6 months later, we didn't tell our family, but we kind of threw our name back in the hat. 9 months later, we get chosen, for these 2 boys. And we actually said no originally because I had just changed jobs. Both parents had retired, all this stuff. Like we were just physically, I'm like, I don't think we can take them. Maybe it's wrong. It's the wrong deal. We say no. 2 months later, they're still not, they come back to go, no one's taking these kids. Will y'all take them? And we say yes.
What are you and Glenna doing to get back into this? Is it just like a natural love for children, or what, how did you guys overcome or at least decide to try again?
We were just really naive. I think if we were anything, we were naive going into it originally. But I think we just had this inescapable, our family's not complete. And we're going to do this, right, wrong, or indifferent. We just, it's like when you think and you hear about like there's a piece that isn't quite logical, but you just kind of feel, there's something awesome about that. And to have and feel that peace, we knew, because I'm like, what else can happen to us? I mean, for real.
Mental breakdown.
What else can happen?
Oh, yeah, we've gone through it all.
Yeah, I'm like, so why not? Let's just, but we still felt this is the direction we're supposed to go. And so, which just all feels so funny talking about it now because we're so much farther down the road,
Yeah.
And
how long ago was this? How many years ago?
I mean, like those 2 boys are 10 and 12 now.
Oh, wow. So a decade.
So we got them when they were right after the youngest had turned 2, like a couple months. So it still takes us another 9 months to get them in our home. I'll say this real quick. One thing about that situation with Glenna, I had been like in a season of just like in ministry, it was just go, 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 go.
Yep.
And, I don't know if you experience this when you have young kids and your job or your ministry is like, go, go, go. Glenna used to just always be go, go, go with me. You have kids. Someone has to stay, stay, stay. We had, I think, felt an emotional distance almost spiritually when it came to just our marriage. One of the things that happened when she got sick is I realized that she's my most important person. So all of that go, go, go stopped. And our marriage took a totally different turn and level whenever that happened. And really it changed who we are today. That there's still the brokenness, physical brokenness from that happening, and the emotional brokenness from that still lingers in some ways, but our marriage has changed because of that, and so I think we just began to be like, we're buddies in the trenches now, even for real. So when we were going to still adopt, we were like, we're going to do it, and so it changed our marriage and kind of who we are and how we communicate. And we learned a ton about each other. And the end of the adoption story. So we adopt the boys. It takes 9 months to actually get them into our house. The week we adopt them, it's like September following that year. We get a call from CPS, and the little girl we lost came back.
Come on. Okay. Came back. What does that mean?
The situation she was in New Jersey, where they had sent her, we knew was bad. We knew it was a bad situation.
But family's family. I mean, that's the system.
They're always going to side with him. And you know what? And I'm like, absolutely, man. I am with that, actually.
Yeah.
But it was a bad situation, and we knew it. But yeah, the week we adopted the boys, they called and we're like, would you take her back? We're like, absolutely. Because in our mind, like, she's always been our daughter.
Yeah.
And would always be, regardless of if we ever saw her again. She would always be our daughter, And so she was gone for 20 months. So we get back a kid who has gone through the ringer from age 1. So that was tough to see for her. But if she had never left, we would never have gotten our boys.
Okay, that's huge, because we did it. We've got her, and we're not getting back into the process. That's kind of where you guys were at that time.
I have no doubt in my mind that would have been what happened. Like, box checked. We did it. We followed what God wanted us to do. This is our family. We adopted. We go on with our lives. She leaves through all the tumult of that, and then we get the boys. And like, if she had never gone, those boys would be, I don't know where.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to use that on them someday when they're being total turds.
So she's how old now?
She is 11.
Okay.
So she just turned 11. So we've got, so that's how you get 7 kids, is God does some jigsaw work on your heart and your life for a while.
Yeah.
And then you end up with that. So pretty cool.
Man, that's amazing, Aric. Powerful. Totally powerful. One of the things that I'm curious about that you would have perspective on is helping your kids process pain.
Well, that situation for sure. I mean, they were young, and so for them, I think that I need to ask them now. Be like, we together prayed for her to stay. She left. What did that do to you as a little kid? Like, what did that make you think about God? What did that make you think? Because we've talked about it since then plenty, but I kind of like, I need to do this with them, like our own little Harding family podcast series. How screwed up did that make you? Whatever.
What did you go ahead?
We always gonna say, so them process. So 2017, Hurricane Harvey, our house floods, and we are I mean, like got off our street on canoes
You're in
type flood.
Houston. You live in Houston,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, Houston area. So we're south of Houston. So when Hurricane Harvey happened, um, yeah, we have to get off our street like that morning. I'm up watching the water all night. They're just sleeping. Everything's normal.
Mm-hmm.
I go wake them all up and I'm like, all right, I want you to get a set of clothes and a set of PJs. I want you to put them in this bag.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go downstairs. When we get there, you're going to notice our house is a pool and we're going to walk next door and we'll just see what happens, you know? And so them dealing with, they all got like a lesson in like things don't matter because we lost. I mean, didn't we were luckily had a 2-story house, so we were able to move. I saw it come in. We moved some stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, your security of just having your home, your stuff, your time, all that kind of stuff. They got to kind of learn to process or be scarred from the lack of ability because we went from there in a canoe to these people sleeping on these people's floor for like a week while I would wait in and go get stuff and back and forth. And then we were on another house for a week. There's 9 of us, by the way, and a dog.
Right.
And then we're in this rent home with just 2 rooms and everyone's just sleeping on mattresses with a TV on the floor in the corner. And we're homeschool. So when you have no home, how do you school? And like, so all of that kind of world. So I think that I think in the end, they at least know how to verbalize what they're going through differently than a lot of kids do because the whole thing with adoption and some of them being adopted, we're very open with them about adoption.
Yeah.
We're a multiracial family. So because both Mo and Jude are both black and Eliza is biracial and then our kids are all white. And so it's like we live some of that world. So they
Mm-hmm.
we talk about, we process what it means
Mm-hmm.
to racism means. So going through 2020 together.
Right. Right.
We're a multiracial family going through 2020. Dude.
In Texas.
In Texas. And so
Mm-hmm.
talking about all of that, you know, and like walking through why people are saying things and
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean for them? Because for them, they just like, well, this is just my family, you know, this is just who we are, you know, but like that's not how the world works. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's would you ever choose to have your house flooded? Would you ever choose a pandemic? Would you ever choose to lose a kid? No, obviously not, because
Right.
that's not how we operate. We operate in like everything we do is to marginalize discomfort, to maintain control,
Mm-hmm.
and feel like, especially as the dad and the husband, that we got it.
Mm-hmm.
So to have those situations where it's inescapable to lose, that we no longer have got control. I think that the kids are going to come out on the other side of childhood being more equipped than a lot of people their age to understand at least what it means to lean on God for your next meal or to see the power of the church. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, our church was rock stars.
Mm-hmm.
Friends that we had, rock stars. Like, I'm like, we kind of have, you know, at some points, I'm like, we may not have a house, but we have too much.
Mm-hmm.
We've been given too much, you know, kind of thing.
I wondered about that. Like all of a sudden, material things just become things, and
Oh, yeah.
in an instant, you know, they can be gone. So we hold them loosely. You made a little bit of a national news when you went back to your house that was flooded, and your piano was there, and you sat down and you played. And why did that happen? Why did you sit down and start playing the piano?
So we were kind of sheltering only about 2 blocks away from our house. So a buddy of mine and I waded into the water to go back because we had kind of gone and scavenged what food we could get, because again, where we were, you couldn't even get to a grocery store because that part of our town was kind of an island. And so we were like, well, I stashed some food. So we went back to the trash bag and kind of got some food, came back. I went back that time to go get some of the, like, there's special stuffed animals and some of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But my oldest son, Ryler, he was 12, I guess at the time, 13, somewhere in there. he didn't have a stuffed animal. He was, at least said that he was willing to admit he needed. So, but he played piano. And so it just happened to be while I was there, I just was like, I'll sit down. It's like, hey, Greg, film me. I'm just going to like dork around on the piano for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can show him the video and be like, hey, look, your piano is okay, which it was not.
Yeah.
but I sat down, so it wasn't like some big, like, okay, let's go to the house and I'm going to like play the piano. Like, not at all. Like, it was just kind of happened to do that while I was there, and just literally just played in the key of C because I know I could hit all the white keys and not be wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, it wasn't like that's not some song that exists. I literally sat down and started dorking through something on the piano and didn't even really think anything about it. Just went back home, went back over to the place we were staying. But then our pastor that night on Facebook did a Facebook Live thing. He was actually stuck in Idaho at the time. He had been there. And he was just talking about this part out of Romans 8 and just about the trials and things that we go through and how God will use this stuff. Like, we need to be ready to see what God's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just decided, I'm going to post that video and put what he said on that deal. And dude, it was crazy.
It blew up.
Crazy.
Vanessa Hudgens, right?
No, Vanessa Carlton.
Okay. Yeah.
She gave us a piano, but like, dude, like, Diddy like reposted that post, like all this stuff. And it was, when they say it's a viral video, it's like one person sees and it just literally spreads.
Yep.
Like friggin' COVID. I mean, everybody. I did interviews with people just literally all over the world, camera crews from like Europe would show up at our house while we're rebuilding. And, I remember right before we flooded, I'm sitting there just like cross-legged in front of my door, just like, all right, God, don't let us flood, because think how much good I can do if I can help my neighbors so much if we don't flood. And I'm sitting there praying all the tricks I know for about an hour, and then the water comes in. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's what you wanted. And I got the opportunity to literally just talk about Jesus to millions of people. There's this one BBC interview. It was BBC World News, which I had already done an interview with them about the whole piano thing. And now they wanted to do a whole interview with me about who are these people that are at my house. And I was like, okay. So we get on there and the guy's like, so who is paying for the people at your house to clean your house? And I'm like, nobody. Like, they're just people from my church and they just love Jesus and that's what you do. And they're like, right. So they're being paid by who? I'm like, nobody. And they're like, literally right before we go on for this interview, they're like, this is going to be seen live by 6.5 million people. And I'm like, oh gosh. And like, literally, like, I was just unhindered, able to just go, this is who Jesus is. This is what's up, and like, I'm not going to have that opportunity again in my life. Probably, it's like, so I'm sitting there. So I take that moment, and like you say, hindsight is always so clear. Looking back at that moment when I'm begging God to not flood my house, and now I'm preaching the gospel unhindered to 6.5 million people. That's just one interview. I mean, it was just around the world. And so, but it also put in perspective this idea of people being famous or whatever, because I did that interview and then I turned off my phone and I'm sitting in my house with no walls. So it's like, oh, this doesn't matter. I mean, it's like you chase the idea of being known for so long. I think we all want that. We all want notoriety. This, I think, it was extremely humbling. Like you said, I've done music my whole life. I mean, when you're writing a song, this, you've done this thing. You craft every chord change and every nuance and every lyric and how that lyric goes in here. Are your tenses the same and all this junk? And I'd done that my whole life. And then the only musical thing that the whole world hears from me is something I, off the top of my head, played on a piano in my house. That's poetic justice. I mean,
Yeah.
And people are like, what song is that? I'm like, it was nothing. Nothing. No thought went into it other than try
Just
not to
white
mess up.
keys, just white keys plunking. Yeah.
Hitting the white,
Yeah.
but just, and again, that's why God's ideas and power and plans are
Yeah.
always so much bigger and they have so much more depth and man. So that was such a weird to be a part of that cultural moment too was
Mm-hmm.
so crazy. And the things I got to do after that were just like nuts. People I got to meet and just it was funny. We got to go backstage at the One Republic show after
No
that.
way.
And while I'm driving there, they used my story on this like Hands Across America type thing. And George Clooney and Julia Roberts are on screen with my video behind them saying, Aric Harding sat down at his piano. I'm all like, Pretty Woman just said my name. If like junior high me had seen that, he would have literally died,
Yeah, man.
Just hilarious. Just like this, like, what is life?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the craziest stuff. But it was great.
That's what I love about you too, man, is you're still so normal. Going all the way back to when your daughter left your house and how painful and just gut-wrenching that must have been to today. What have you learned about yourself and the way you process pain?
Probably the biggest thing is just wait.
Hmm.
God will give you the strength to endure what you have to endure, but gosh, just wait.
Mm-hmm.
Wait to see what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Wait to see what God wants to do. In the middle of it, it just feels like just such a kick in the crotch. And you're just like, why? Like, why are my kids reacting like this? Why is our marriage, why are we not seeing eye to eye? Like, why are we struggling financially? Like, you just wait and see what God does. And like a tiny sliver example of like with the flood thing, past that whole having that window of opportunity to really just speak Jesus over the world. Past that, we rebuilt a house that we had been in for 10 years. And God showed me I had spent every waking hour for 10 years remodeling and redoing that house. Probably instead of being the father I should have been to my kids. And in a day, it's wiped out. I learned real quick through that painful experience, stop doing that. Don't waste moments with your kids anymore. We got that house rebuilt. We were then 4 years later, we sold that house. And as our kids are getting bigger and off of a street we did love very much, but God, we now moved only 2 miles away to this acre where we have 3 different little buildings. And like, we could never have afforded to be here because we wouldn't have been able to sell that house for any money. And so it's like God just financially did this, like, watch this. And now here we are. And we had all this debt from Harvey still. And like, we got out of all that debt and we sold that house. And we moved to this place here where like, I'm looking out my window and there's like, I can see like my house across the way because I'm in my kid's house. And my other 4 boys live in this like big open man cave thing. And we have a stage out here that we do worship nights. And God gave us this acre to host people, to be a place where people can come and experience maybe quiet that they can't have, to be able to share their art and their music and stuff like that in a way that we couldn't do at the old house. We could never afford this place if it wasn't for that kind of thing, so it's like, that's why I'm like, yeah, just wait, man. Just wait. Like right now, if things are crappy, if you feel like your kids are driving you crazy or they don't get it or school sucks or your job doesn't make sense right now, why did you lose this opportunity that somebody else got? I think for Ben, that's a huge one.
Yeah, man.
Why did somebody else get that raise? Why did somebody else get that promotion? Why did somebody else get that gig? And I'm not great at it, man, but I believe that God's always like, just wait.
So just to play, on the Job story, right? Was there a moment where you kind of wanted to go, what the heck? Like let up? Like,
I think, yeah, I I don't know. With my personality,
Mm-hmm.
I live in the moment probably too much, and so when I'm in the moment, I'm like, dang. But
Mm-hmm.
I kind of turn the page
Mm-hmm.
too fast sometimes for my wife's liking. Like we'll have been like in an argument about something, and she just feels like it's just the most earth shattering thing ever. And then I'm like, oh, man, you want to get wings or like what? And I'm
I
like,
love it.
I'm still with you, but we still got to eat. So
Can we get wings?
we
Yeah.
should fight and eat, or just like, or with the kids, or, I was like, I don't internalize things long. And I don't know. I mean, probably I should have felt like that more than I did. And I don't attribute it to some incredible spiritual depth, but just more like I think God's mercy for me and my wiring. And I think that that's helped me I needed to be that way
Mm-hmm.
for everybody else in my family because 9 personalities going through
Bro.
adoption and loss, flooding, pandemic, like the racial upheaval, I'm like going through all that stuff
Mm-hmm.
and all of everyone's nests to manage. It's just it's been a heck of a decade for sure.
Uh, Speak to that real quick, or however you want to say. What is something that you would tell someone who's wanting to get into the adoption? And is there anything that you wish someone would have told you when it came to mixed race families, or you know blended families that way? I don't even know, is there like a
Yeah,
term for it? But when
that's
you're
what it is.
adopting children that are coming from different cultural backgrounds, is there anything you and Glenna wish you could have known?
If you're gonna do it, if you're gonna adopt, if you're gonna foster kids of any age, race, situation, please just know that you're called to do that.
Mm.
I think it got very in vogue for a while.
Yeah.
It got a lot of attention, which is great. But
Mm-hmm.
then we know some people that had no business getting involved and it didn't work out. And uh the wreckage from that for those kids, for that family, it was tough. And again, though, it's like they tried, and
Yeah.
they had to be real about it wasn't whether what they were called to do. But you got to have that piece that this is like it's inescapable.
Mm-hmm.
Like for us, we felt like our family was incomplete. And I will be dead honest with you. There are days when we're like, what would have been so much easier?
Mm-hmm.
Not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell yourself, if it had just been our 4 bio kids, like, and this is people that haven't adopted and people that haven't fostered would probably hear this phrase and be like, wow, you're a terrible person. Um, but I've lived it, so you don't get a
Uh-huh.
vote.
Uh-huh.
Uh, there is there's a way that I understand the kids that are biologically my children because
Mm-hmm.
there is a piece of who I am inside of them
Mm-hmm.
and my wife, and I know her.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at them, I can decode their problems, their situations. I inherently, by design, understand what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
My 3 adopted kids, I do not. And it's not a race thing. It's not, it is you are not from my body.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people can hear that and go, how frustrating and how behind the 8 ball are you? I look at it and go, well, then I get to be a student of just people.
Mm-hmm.
And God's going to grow my understanding of what it means to be a dad in a way that someone who hasn't done that. And again, it doesn't make someone a super whatever, but my experience as a dad will be different than someone who does not do that.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not equipped to do it. God equips you to get through things, and I won't do it perfectly, but I've gotten to experience being a dad in a different way that people who don't do that will never have that opportunity. Just
Yeah.
like someone, I would say, who has a special needs kid, or someone who has a kid with any kind of disability, or someone who has twins or triplets, whatever, it's not going to be some massive difference. But one thing that we realize is that the whole nature nurture thing, I'm like, my 3 adopted kids are going to be always be who they were from birth on some level. But we get a brand of Harding family that would not have existed if it wasn't for them being adopted into this family.
Why does it make you emotional to talk about that?
I think I get that from my dad, period. My dad gets emotional at lunch every week after church. I'm like, Dad, it was the same song we sang. And then my mom and my wife all they and now because I'll start crying with my dad and they just roll their eyes. They're like, good Lord, get over it. I think because I think it's just it's bigger. It's stuff that I feel like it just touches something bigger than what I could plan or do or would have ever been brave enough to choose.
Yeah.
I'm not
That's
brave
good,
enough to
man.
choose any of the crap that has gone on in my life. I would never do that. I would probably rather have just lived the mediocre because it would have been good enough and I would have known Jesus enough. But when life doesn't let you hold God at arm's length.
Yeah, man. That's good. That's really good. Well, man, this has been awesome. Like the whole idea of this is that we can find our life in pieces, similar to a tree kind of cut down on the ground of a forest, and you can look at that and go, this is a mess. You can never put that back together. Like that's over. And instead of it being final or fatal or just kind of the end of something, what if someone came along, picked up all those same pieces, put them in a woodshed, and now they've recovered and collected, and they've got a bold purpose to bring light to the world. And that is 100% the illustration of your life. Like each time something gets blown up into pieces, you literally are telling, and you're on the other side. So you're able to tell now how some of the bold purposes have come out of those things. And I think, would you agree? Like, it's not the same. Like, you didn't go back to the Hardings pre your daughter leaving, pre a hurricane destroying your home, pre any number of trials and tribulations you've been through. You've adapted to who you are now, what God is doing presently in your life. Yeah.
Yep. In fact, like we have this family motto, which might make us just the lamest people on the earth.
No, let's hear
it. It's you can't go back, so go on.
That's good, man. What a way to end the podcast. And I love it that you're getting emotional again. I just love it, man. I love you. You're still a super amazing guy, Aric Harding.
Well, we need to I'm going to come up with a podcast so I can interview you and then we can hang out again.
Let's go, man. Well, thanks for your time, buddy.
Yeah, dude. Love you, man.
I love you too. All right. See you, man.
All right. Later.